Hello, if you are just coming from my previous video discussing Pluto. In this video, I'm going to be talking specifically about the most recent Pluto in Gemini generation. Pluto was last in Gemini from 1907 to 1933. Now, briefly, we're going to recap what Pluto signifies. And in order to understand the transit of Pluto aspects a planet around 5 times, and as with all planets, it's more volatile when it's retrograde. So when you're looking at a generation in regards to Pluto begins its effects about 2.5 years before it changes sidereal signs. Now, quick recap, what is Pluto? Pluto has a lot to do with propaganda, the media, manipulation, power struggles, control, accelerated success and death, because Pluto is the furthest planet out in our solar system. So it's so cold when you reach Pluto. It burns. That's how cold Pluto is. It has a lot to do with excessive consumption, mutilation, suicide, to kill or to be killed. So this video, Pluto in Gemini, could serve as a part 2 to my video on Pluto, because Pluto was first discovered during its transit of sidereal Gemini. Pluto has this link to the planet Mercury, because Pluto takes 248 years approximately to transit all 12 signs of the zodiac. If you take the number 248 and you add 2, 4 and 8, you get 14, and you reduce it further, you get 5. 5 in numerology is Mercury. So I feel that Pluto loves and is most volatile when it's in the signs of Gemini, Virgo, as well as the air signs of Gemini again, Libra and Aquarius. So remember that for later videos in this mini-series. Now, Pluto also has to do with a lot of toxic energy, corruption of the energy, because Pluto is a malefic. And as with all malefics, they have a higher purpose. But the way they go about ensuring that higher purpose occurs is very traumatic. And I feel like Pluto has a lot to do with psychological traumas, and it seeks to remove all of our impurities, because there's a higher vibration and a lower vibration. But because it's a malefic, the lower vibration on this plane is expressed most potently and most prevalently. So because Pluto is connected to the underworld and death, ultimately it's what remains, your legacy, what people remember about you after you die. So Pluto in Gemini, 1907 to 1933 approximately. What is Gemini? And Mercury? Gemini is the 3rd house. It's your neighbours. Mercury is the messenger. So it has a lot to do with how you convey your message, speaking from the heart. And in order to understand Gemini, you have to understand the axis it creates with Sagittarius. Gemini is also your siblings, your cousins, your relatives, travel for short periods of time, short distances, your commute. So what historical events occurred during the years of 1907 to 1933? Well, we have World War I. That you could look at the events and how World War I occurred and say this has a lot to do with monarchy and power struggles for resources in places like Africa, and underlying tensions that had been brewing for a long time. The monarchy that remained in Europe were mostly cousins. And you have to also understand with Gemini that it's that bridge between the spiritual and the material world. So again, with World War One, what happened? There was this revolutionary war where we had trench warfare for the first time. There was use of mustard gas, chlorine gas, all these poisonous gases that affected what? Your lungs, your nervous system, your respiratory system. All of these things linked to Gemini were mutilated because, as I said, Pluto has a lot to do with mutilation. So that's one way of understanding your Pluto in your chart, or Pluto transits. What is Pluto going to mutilate? In 1918, there was the Spanish flu, or the 1918 influenza, which had a high mortality rate in young adults. If you go back in time to the 17th century, in 1666, when Pluto was transiting Gemini, there was an outbreak of the Great Plague in London that affected the whole of Britain, and Cambridge University closed, while a young Isaac Newton was conducting private study at home. He made groundbreaking discoveries in terms of universal gravity, motion, calculus, optics, and the list goes on. So you can see how from something toxic, something good can come out of it. And this is ultimately what Pluto and the outer planets are about. Pluto Gemini, brought us great advancements in technology that would later lead to the advent of television, advancements in motion pictures with toxic ideology and propaganda. If we look at The Birth of a Nation in 1915. Up until that point, the motion picture industry, it was mostly shorts of about 3 minutes to anywhere between 3 and 18 minutes. But Birth of a Nation was over 187 minutes long. And it had this toxic ideology, which again links it with Gemini and Sagittarius. So the motion picture industry became this viable tool of propaganda, and Hollywood as we know it was formed. This is the purpose of Hollywood. And if you look now, as this Pluto in Sagittarius transit ends, you can further understand this evolutionary journey that has occurred with Hollywood and the media and propaganda and Pluto. So Gemini also has a lot to do with your bravery, your beliefs, as I said, and your ability to convey and share your message, your writing skill, your oratory ability, because this is leading on from Pluto in Taurus. If we go back to 1666, we also saw in September of that year, the Great Fire of London. And what is happening now with Pluto in Sagittarius? What has been occurring? Loads of environmental issues, loads of forest fires in various countries. In the years 1907 to 1933, we saw the rise of the toxic ideology, that's linked to fascism. The idea of the nuclear family was born in 1924, which will come up again in future videos in this mini-series when we get into Pluto in Cancer and Pluto in Gemini. So I hope this video helps you understand a little bit about Pluto in Gemini and its effects. Notable persons who were born in this Pluto-Gemini generation include Billie Holiday, Maya Angelou, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Albert Camus, and Anne Frank, to name a few. I hope you found this video interesting. I'm going to leave further information regarding this Pluto generation down below in the description box, as well as details on where to find me and how to get in touch. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and look out for the next video in this series.